see how you do under pressure. Oh, yeah, I've been wanting this forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay, hey, yeah, ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra, extra. Work with me, you know that I got.
We are honored to have with us today the 31st Chancellor of New York City Schools, the visionary founding principal of Eagle Academy and the Bronx School of Law, Government, and Justice, Mr. David C. Banks. Mr. Banks, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Zion. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm really excited, and first time I've been in the school in a little while. So happy to be here, and it's great to see all the wonderful work you all have put together.
Thank you. It's great to see you, too. Recently sat down for a conversation with Azriel Almovar, a class of 2020 alumni. The last time he was in the building, schools were shut down due to COVID. So it's fascinating to hear about his initial feelings when he stepped into the building. In your case, you visit the building quite often. However, you saw this facility be built from the ground up. So I'm curious, what goes through your mind when you step into LGJ?
That's a great question. I have a wide range of emotions. I just start smiling from ear to ear whenever I step into this building. This is a very special place. And the creation of this building happened on a very special time, really, in my life. I was much younger. It was the first principal for the school. And as we moved into this building, it was super duper exciting. So when I think about the building itself, it's I think about all the special places in here. You know, I help with the design of the building. I work with the architects to help with the design. You know, we got a crime lab in this school. There are very few schools that have a crime lab. Beautiful library. We had a wonderful librarian, Miss Linda Cuff. She was, I always said she was the world's greatest librarian. Just the dedication that she had. We have a beautiful library that overlooks down into the lobby. I've always loved that. Yeah, every time I come here, I feel great. I think about all the wonderful people who I work with here. And even after I left, all the wonderful people who continued to be here, who loved our students, taught our students, and just gave everything that they had. So I'm always just filled with just a great, great feeling anytime I'm stepping into the building.
I am one who didn't know that you were part of the architecture and building. The building is, I agree, is designed very nicely. We know that you are responsible for establishing multiple schools. How do you personally measure the success of a school?
Well, to me, first of all, you got to have strong academic performance, because the reason why we're doing school in the first place is to make sure that kids are well prepared to have career opportunities when they leave, whether they want to become an entrepreneur, whether they want to go on to college and then ultimately go into the workforce. No matter what it is they want to do, our job is to make sure that they have the skills that they need to be successful at the next part of their journey. And so as I visit any school, I want to see academic rigor. Right? There are a lot of places you go where people love the kids and they have lots of fun, but the kids are not really learning anything. So you need to make sure that there's a very strong, academically rigorous program that challenges kids. That's very, very important.
Speaking of challenges, we know you spent a good portion of your childhood in Queens. What was it like being a principal in the heart of the Bronx while suffering and rooting for the Mets?
Well, listen, you are a fan of the team that you are a fan of. Now, I'm a huge sports fan, and probably got that a lot from my dad and just growing up in Brooklyn and Queens. I was born in Brooklyn, and I lived in Brooklyn until I was about 12 years old. Then my mom and dad, my dad was a police officer in New York, and then they bought a house in Southeast Queens. It was a great place to grow up. But from the time I was a little kid in Brooklyn, we played sports all year round. As soon as school was over, we went home, did your homework, and you went outside. They didn't have video games and things back then. So the worst thing in the world would be like if you had to stay in the house. So we went outside and we played, and we had a ton of fun. And we played baseball during baseball season. We played football during football season. And we played basketball all year round. So I became a huge Knicks fan. I became a huge Mets fan and a huge Jets fan. Those are my teams. Now, here's the reason why. In 1969, 1970, I was 7 or 8 years old. So I was watching TV. I'm watching the teams. The Mets won the World Series in 1969. They were better than the Yankees. The first baseball game that I ever went to was at Shea Stadium in Queens. My mom took my brothers and I to the baseball game. And I remember walking through that tunnel and seeing that beautiful green field open up in front of me. It was like a magic moment. I was hooked.
The Mets didn't win a World Series during your tenure here as principal, but the Yankees did.
Yeah.
Was there any diehard Yankee fans who made your days a little bit more stressful, you know? The ones that when you see them in the hallway, you look the other way?
No. Listen, most of the kids at Law, Government, and Justice were Yankee fans, as well as they should have been. They grew up right in the shadow of Yankee Stadium, the big ball orchard in the South Bronx. I think my greatest disappointment was not getting Derek Jeter to come and visit us while he was here.
Now, you talk about the kids in here being Yankee fans. Now, there's one Yankee fan who you cannot avoid. We learned that your wife is a Yankee fan. And to be honest with you, we were a little bit confused about which team you rooted for because of this picture right here.
Yeah, but don't be confused. She grew up in the Bronx, so she's from the boogie down. She grew up really just a few blocks away from here. So she grew up she's a lifelong Yankees fan.
Now, I've never seen a Mets fan that happy in a Yankees jersey.
Well, actually, yeah, they put the jersey on me. They wouldn't let me get out on the field unless I put it on. But I've become very fond of the Yankee management and the people who work in the Yankees office. They are great people, and they're just some of the biggest supporters to the schools all across the Bronx. And so, as Chancellor, I worked very closely with them. I worked closely with them when I was here as well. In fact, Misha Porter, who became the principal after me and became chancellor before me, she's a huge Yankees fan and worked even more closely with the Yankees. The Yankees are a great organization, maybe the greatest organization in all of sports. So I will give them that. Even though I'm a Mets fan, nobody compares to all the championships that the Yankees have won. Much respect for the New York Yankees.
Thank you. See, if I was in your spot, I would have blamed it on AI. But I think it's a little too late for that. You're already in hot waters with the Mets fan base, so this next question will either dig the hole deeper or help you out a bit. What was the name on the back of that Yankee jersey you were wearing?
It wasn't a specific Yankee name. It was, they had like a special Yankee day and like a student youth day. So it wasn't the name of any particular player. It was something like Youth Day or something like that. It wasn't, from what I recall. I don't remember. But it wasn't a specific Yankee name. No, that I could not do.
Personally, as a Yankee fan, I'm done talking about the Mets. Let's move on to a team that I can stand, the New York Knicks.
Oh, come on now.
We know you are a Knicks fan.
Huge.
What are the chances that we find a picture of you in a Brooklyn Nets jersey?
What, in a Brooklyn Nets jersey?
Yes.
I mean, I've gone to several Nets games. I would say it's very unlikely you have me in a Brooklyn Nets jersey, though. You better not have me in a Brooklyn Nets jersey. I would be very impressed if you guys have that.
We want you to come back, so we didn't do that.
No. I'm a Knicks fan. When I grew up, my favorite player was Walt Clyde Frazier, who's been an announcer for the Knicks now for probably 20, 30 years. But Clyde as a player, oh my gosh. I used to try to practice the way he would shoot his jump shot, the way he used to steal the ball. He was so smooth. He was cool. He's still cool and smooth.
Right.
But so many of today's kids know him as the announcer for the Knicks.
Speaking of basketball, as the founder of both Eagle Academy and the Bronx School of Law, Government, and Justice, we were both housed in this building in 2004. Which team were you secretly rooting for when they played against each other?
Well, first of all, I was the founding principal, not the founder, right? So I was the first principal for LGJ, and I was the first principal for Eagle. But I would listen. That's like choosing between your two children.
So I was a favorite.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't really have a favorite. I love all my kids equally. Don't get me in trouble. My daughter's here today, right?
Oh.
And so, no, I loved both. They were both, my heart. LGJ. It's funny. I become more well known publicly for my work with Eagle, but LGJ was really my heart. I loved I think the best years that I spent in education for me were at LGJ because I was a young principal then, and I was learning right along with the kids, and it was just I have some of the best memories, and working with Misha and Miss Brenda Tucker, who also worked here for many years, just recently retired. All the great teachers and whatnot. This was so much fun. And I remember when I left to become the principal for Eagle, so many of the girls in particular were so disappointed because I was like a father figure to many of the girls at LGJ. And they said, Mr. Banks, they would see me because we were still in the building. You left us for those bad boys, you know? And but I moved to Eagle because I felt compelled to. I had to help because so much of the data that we were watching and things that were happening with boys of color, black boys, Latino boys, they were doing much worse than the girls. And they needed the most help. And that's part of the reason why I left, to try to do that. And I knew I was leaving LGJ in good hands because with Misha Porter, who was Misha Ross at the time, she was phenomenal. So I knew LGJ was going to be just fine. And I needed to go to another place where they needed more help. But I love both. And I'll give you one story. When I was the principal of LGJ when 9/11 hit, and many of us will still remember when the World Trade Center was attacked and our country was attacked. It was a very, very scary time. And I remember being in the school that day. My assistant principal at the time, Ms. Bora, came in and said, I'm sorry, but there was all kind of confusion. They said that the World Trade Center, a plane hit the World Trade Center. And I thought it was like maybe a little small plane or something, because that had happened before. But then when I turned on the TV and I saw what happened, that was very, very, very scary. We were not in this building at that time. We were in our old building that we were sharing space with Health Opportunities High School. We were in their building. And the whole New York City transit system shut down that day. Kids could not get home. Parents were coming up and they would take 2 or 3 other kids who they knew who lived near them. But we must have had at least a dozen kids who parents could not get to them at all. And before I could even turn my attention to my own children, I took care of the kids of LGJ. And so that was one of the memories that I always have. This was always a very special place for me.
Now, going back, when we interviewed Mr. Johnson, the current principal of LGJ, he sat with us back around December. He spoke about the pressure that comes along with being the 4th principal of LGJ. We described him as the cleanup hitter in a lineup full of all-stars. In your case, you were the leadoff hitter, and your team was counting on you to get on base. Can you describe your approach as principal back in 1997?
Well, when we opened the school in 1997, first of all, I was 35 years old, so I was a young principal, and I had a lot of energy. And I was always known for that. Like, people would always say to me, you're so passionate. So I brought all that energy into the school. And I just try to have the vision to create a great culture for the school. And in order to do that, you have to hire great people. That was the most important thing. The very first teacher that ever hired for LGJ was a woman named Karen Rusika. She was an English teacher. She was wonderful and amazing. We hired Joan Sullivan, Miss Latai, who I think still remains at the school. I hired her many years ago. I don't think she wasn't in our very first year, but she might have been in the second or third year. Mr. Hughes, who became he was a gym teacher, became our original baseball coach. Amazing. Ms. Zan Taylor, just so many wonderful, but they were great educators who cared deeply for the kids. Mr. Morgan, Ms. Clark, who still remains here to this day. These were all folks that I hired many years ago. And so when I think about being a leadoff hitter and getting LGJ on base, it was really about setting a certain tone that this would be a good place for our kids to be. The same way that I raised my 4 children was the same exact way that I led as the principal for the school. And that's the way I